Welcome to LOA Today. Walt and life coach Joel Elston here. Today is Thursday, February the 1st, 2018, 8 a.m. Eastern Time. Your first daily dose of happy for the day. And Joel, both Wendy and Cindy and I were talking about yesterday about how January was over, and we couldn't believe it. We thought 2018 just started. What happened?
Well, it does. It's amazing, and I guess it's an age thing. I used to hear my parents say, as you get older, it gets faster, and didn't quite understand it, but now I do. It's just amazing that we're here, and in my world, everything's just every day feels like such an incredible day that I'm happy that time's going on, but it's like doesn't have to be so fast.
No, I'd actually like to slow it down a little bit. Savor the moment, enjoy it, because the moments are all good. And so when you have all these good moments, you got to slow them all down and say, "Hey, this is great stuff going on here." That's the way I think.
It really is. Yeah, and the perception. I guess the perception. I remember in school, there's 30 seconds left in class. And that clock, it seemed to be like click, click, and then if you're doing something fun, it's like it goes da 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 da.
Right.
So again, it's all about perception. I know when life was not going the way it should for me for a long time, it seemed to be stuck forever. And interestingly enough, that one of my favorite movies of all time is Groundhog Day with Bill Murray.
Oh,
and tomorrow
right,
is Groundhog Day.
That's right. Yeah.
And when your life is sort of stuck in that redundant pattern, it just seems like it never. But when things are really flowing, it's just like wham. And so it's hard to believe we're already in February. We have amazing things happening, and the good news is it's just something that I'm loving every day. But as we said, the concept of it speeding up, I need to figure out a dial to slow that down just a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think that somehow the formula should be reversed, right? Like, for those times in our lives when things weren't going well, those should go by in like a snap. It's the stuff that's good. Right. That's the stuff that should take forever.
Well, in fact, there was an Adam Sandler movie where he had a fast forward to life, and
I like that.
He had a remote control, and he could fast forward through the minutia or the bad times and get to the other side. And of course, the moral of the story was, you get to the other side and the moments, part of the law of attraction for me has been understanding that the moments, there are no good moments, there are no bad moments, they're all part of the journey.
Yes.
And I couldn't have the concept of contrast within the law of attraction. I wouldn't have the contrast of my life today without those redundant, horrible, what seemingly horrible at the time events. I wouldn't have the contrast that I have today. So it goes all directions, as you can imagine.
One thing that I've been working on a lot lately for myself is trying every single moment throughout my day as I'm doing stuff. I want to start it off by feeling good, by getting myself into that alignment position, right? And
right.
I can't say I was doing great at it, but this morning I woke up. I mean, I have been doing pretty good at it at times. Not consistently enough for me, but I've been doing better, certainly better than I did, say, a month ago. But this morning I woke up with this real strong determination, like, okay, enough of this messing around, enough of the futzing around. We're going to have that high level of feeling before I do every single thing this morning and tomorrow and this afternoon and this evening. So, okay, my first thing to do was to get up out of bed. Whoop, wait a minute, gotta slow down, gotta get here into the joyful mood. So, okay, I'm excited, I'm getting out of bed, this is great, So I get out of bed, I'm feeling good. Okay, now the next thing to do is to go get dressed, right? Oh, what? Wait a minute, gotta get in alignment. And I have to say, within about 5 minutes, I was practically laughing. I had to be quiet because my wife was still asleep.
There's a lot of, and I forget which one of, there's so many people that I've listened to, but one of the concepts that I always espouse is that grateful moment, and one of the first things, and it sounds, when I say this, and I know when I'd have people tell me these things at a different point in my life, I'd sort of roll my eyes. So I get there's probably an eye roll coming here, but when I get up, I truly, just immediately go to the gratitude piece. Well, first of all, I'm grateful I'm awake. I have a great day today. a lot of things to do today, and it's amazing how this works out. I enjoy my work greatly, but I have one appointment scheduled today that was just, it isn't my favorite appointment. It's a lot of, just not in details, but it's just not a great appointment for me. But, again, I'm grateful to have the work. Well, I got a message from the person that I'm supposed to meet with today, not feeling well. Oh, okay. Well, and I'm hopefully next week feeling better. We'll be able to get together. But this week, especially today when I have so much going on, it was just it gives me a block of time that I really needed. And I'm like, wow. So I'm really excited that I have today. I've been given this time to deal with some of the other stuff. So it's been, as you said, this beginning New Year has been exciting, but vibrating on that positive, whatever you want to call it, that if you approach the day with this concept, it makes it go a lot easier. It's much more enjoyable too.
Enjoyable. That's what I'm looking for. I want joy. I mean, I even put it out as one of my affirmations yesterday. I want more joy in my life, I said. I want to attract more joy. I want to let more joy in. And so I guess I got my answer this morning, because my answer right out of waking up was, okay, I want to really apply this feel good before I do something thing. And I started doing it, and it's been an interesting day so far. I mean, I've been up for let's see, we're at 8 o'clock now, so I've been up for about 2.5 hours. And in those 2.5 hours, it's not like I've gotten a ton of stuff done. I've gotten a decent amount done, but I was enjoying mundane things, and that was different. Yes. Enjoying mundane things. I never really thought you could do that consistently throughout the day. I knew you could do mundane things. I knew you could just get them done. Work through your list and so forth. But enjoying each one, it's like, ooh, this is different. This is a very different thing, and I think it's a good thing.
Well, and again, it's about that perspective. It's just everything. You can look at the events of today as an exercise in futility and redundancy, or you can look at the concept of, I get to do these things. These are part of my and if you approach everything as an honor to be able to do it, or that it's exciting to be able to do it, you want to have joy in doing stuff, find fun in it. It changes everything. And then everything does become sort of exciting. And some of the stuff I have to do it's the first of the month, and I have some corporate billing that I have to do, and that used to be my least favorite thing to do. Well, I've reframed that as first of all, it's the way I get money. I build companies for the work I do. I'm grateful for and so I look at it differently. So I'm actually, after we get off the phone, I have about an hour's worth of billing I want to do. I'm really excited about that.
Yeah.
And most people are going, yay, billing. But it has other connotations to it that I really like.
Which is good. That's very good. It ties in beautifully, of course, as it always does, with our topic for the day, because you posted something on Facebook that I thought was a good little, it's one of those little quote things that you find in various places and you post up. And this one essentially said that the thing that tends to trip us up more than anything else is the pictures that we put into our minds. So I thought, well, that's a good topic. We should probably also figure out, well, how do we reverse that? How do we put the pictures into our minds that not only don't mess us up, but actually move us forward? But we should probably do the first part first, which is, how do the pictures mess up our minds? We should probably address that part before we try to fix it, don't you think?
Right. And the quote itself, on the thing was, what screws us up most in life is the picture in our head of how things are supposed to be. And we have in my interpretation, I'll be very interested to hear yours. When we're growing up, we have a view of how life is supposed to be. I grew up with my peers in a small southern town in Florida, and we're great people and really, really good stuff. Well, my dad owned an insurance agency. In reality, I was supposed to work at my dad's insurance agency, all the way he did it for all those years. We were going to, I'd make good money, marry a local girl, and it was all, that was what was supposed to happen. Mm-hmm. And so that's an image that I grew up that was sort of given to me. When I went to work for my dad, it was never discussed. I was never really even asked, do you want to go to work? It was, if you want to start working now, you can get a brand new Trans Am. Well, when you're that age, yeah, that's a great idea. We'll do
right.
that. but I didn't really want to work in the agency. That type of work, insurance sales and stuff with my ADHD is not a great mix. And but at the same time, I readily jumped on that, so I'm not trying to be the victim here. But again, there's this image that we all have of how it's supposed to be. And when life comes up differently or it changes things, then you can either look at it from, God, my life is totally falling apart from what I wanted to be, or you can accept the new reality as how it was supposed to be. If I would have had the life that was supposed to be, and I can't compare because there's no way to actually do that, I have an incredible life now that I never could have imagined, doing stuff that I absolutely love doing, affecting people's lives. I mentally feel that I'm growing every day. I just really feel enthusiastic about my life. Now, I never felt that even at a young age going to the insurance office every day doing that. Some people can do that. I couldn't. So the reality is, as long as I looked at what I had scheduled in my life or was scheduled for me in my life, as long as I looked at that as like I lost that or I gave all that up or I'm missing that, then I'm in a negative state. Or if I look like, here's what life is, let's live it. Let's make the best of wherever you are. Where you're at right now is where you're at. That's reality. Be excited about that. Make that a good thing. And that's sort of what it's like to me, that quote's dealing with it. Once you accept that this isn't the life you thought of, but it's really a much better place. I mean, if you offer the two paradigms of here's what it was and here's what you would be doing now, going to the office, it's 8:11. We'd be opening at 8:30. I'd be selling insurance today. I'd go home for lunch, and I'd come back until 5 o'clock. I'd go home and probably have a drink and then watch TV and go to bed. Now, that's not critical of anyone's life that's doing that, but my day is amazing. It's full of energy. There's a lot of stuff happening, very exciting stuff that I would never trade going back to that mindset. So I've totally accepted that what I was supposed to be, I'm no longer screwing up my mind what it's supposed to be. I'm grateful that it didn't turn out as it was, quote unquote, supposed to be.
Yeah, I hear you. And the fact is that early on we do tend to take on what is supposed to be from parents and teachers and so forth. That we often do not do such a great job of creating our own picture. But by the same token, I have to say that now that I have been deliberately trying to create my own picture for quite some time, I'm realizing how many different ways I mess myself up when I do that as well.
Yes.
I think the reason is that partly it's just due to insufficient practice, right? I didn't practice it a lot when I was younger, so I didn't have a whole lot of practice going into it now. That's part of it. But really, I think the main part is we don't see the whole picture. We try to see the picture, and it's not like we shouldn't try to see the picture. We should, but we really don't. We can't see the whole picture because we're just limited in terms of how much our senses can handle and how much our conscious minds can handle. So given those limitations, there's a lot of stuff that could be in our picture that we can't even conceive of. And because
you're completely right. Yes.
Because of that, it's actually kind of a mistake to fall for, well, why isn't it matching up the picture in my head? It's actually better off. We're better off when we're saying, well, this certainly didn't match the picture in my head, but this looks like it could be unraveling to something even better than I had in mind. So bring it on. Different mindset.
Well, yes, and I think I've used this analogy on the show before, but I'm in Richmond, Virginia right now, and you're up in Connecticut, and if I were to say, Walt, meet me in Atlanta tomorrow at 5 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's 15 different ways for you to do that. You could fly, you could start driving now, and on the route of driving, there's multiple routes you could take. Same for me. I could go straight down 95 and then cut over. I could take 85, which is the most direct route, or I can go get on a plane. There's a million options, probably unlimited options to get to Atlanta. Well, if I get stuck on one course of action of getting to Atlanta, I'm missing the point of Atlanta.
Yes.
So when you're developing these things, you get stuck on it working out a certain way. Warren Buffett, one time I heard a quote. He said, I don't know much about Walt, other than he's an exceptionally brilliant man when it comes to finance. He was talking about some company, and I believe it was Pepsi. And, Pepsi was not as performing as well as Coca-Cola. And somebody asked him why, and he said, well, Pepsi forgot what they were. They're a soft drink company that's trying to be all things to all people. They got too diluted. And he said another example was AT&T. They said they forgot they were a communications company and thought they were a long-distance company. If they were way behind everybody else, and AT&T eventually went bankrupt. So we had two examples of people that forgot what their point was. And I think a lot of times we get stuck on a perceived way of achieving when you just got to accept the path is there. It's like with the LOA Today show. The idea that you and I have always felt that this was going to a much bigger place. And how we get there, if we get stuck on this is the only way it can happen, then it's unlikely it's going to unfold that exact way. The law of attraction is about giving your vision and then letting go of how you get there. Mike Dooley speaks about that and does it very eloquently, of don't micromanage the concepts of the universe. Get your vision set, let it go, but keep it nebulous enough that you're not so stuck on a course of action that it has no chance of being fulfilled because it's too narrow. And the idea that my life right now is an incredible life that I have sort of brought about by just thinking about it and living my life a certain way, that there's no way that I had this exact vision of my life today on, February 1st of 2018 would be the way it is now. But, oh, my goodness, thank goodness it is.
Yeah, right. And, in fact, when you're talking about going to Atlanta, I mean, if you were to ask me what my optimal way to get to Atlanta was, I would tell you that my optimal way to get to Atlanta is to travel there by Star Trek transporter. Because it's so quick.
Nice.
You stand in the transporter, you get all fuzzy, you turn into little sparkly things, and then all of a sudden sparkly things appear in Atlanta, and boom, you're there. I mean, what better way to travel is there? And there's really only one problem with that particular approach, and that is they haven't invented the Star Trek transporter yet. So I could be waiting quite some time for that transporter to show up, and meanwhile, I'm not getting to Atlanta.
Right.
A bit of a problem.
Well, yes, and exactly.
So, if you're waiting for the Star Trek transporter, you might want to consider alternative transportation.
Well, and that becomes the thing. Sometimes we get so stuck on the method of how we're going to obtain things. Then what we need to do is we need to stop with that and move backwards and say, look, this is what I'm after. How we get there becomes irrelevant. But at the same time, I must almost say the exact opposite. The journey itself is where a lot of the stuff you discover. One of the things I like about driving to Atlanta is along the way the stuff that you can encounter. There's stuff, there's people you can meet, there's things you can see. One of the things that wouldn't make sense to a lot of people is last year. About this time, I was doing some work with this addiction center, and they eventually asked me to come on as COO, and I was like, yeah, I think I would like that, and I was not quite sure, but it felt pretty good. I mean, who turns down a COO job? That's sort of was my thinking. Who would turn that down?
Right.
And you and I talked about it. You even told me, said, well, you don't sound too convinced. I said, well, let's see what happens. And at the same time, I accepted it, worked there for a while, fine company, but it just really getting back in the corporate world was not my thing. I like having my own practice, setting my own schedule, me being in control of my vision with how I want to do things. So, while I still have some light involvement with them, we certainly refer back and forth. I sort of stepped away from any day-to-day operation. And somebody else went in, not with no negative connotation to it. So what's the point of that last year? It's like, well, that's sort of a wasted amount of time. Well, not really, because I made incredible contacts during that period of time that I hadn't yet made. So I can tell you 5 people that are integral in this year's plan that I never met, that I never would have met if I didn't go work there. So it had a purpose, and it might have seemed like being COO of the company was the point. It wasn't. It was part of the journey. Now, you don't know what the point is while you're doing it. That's the beauty of it all. You don't know if it's just, is it part of the process or is it the process? We don't know. And accepting that and not getting stuck on one outcome is how you can be happy with it. Once I realized that, I often tell you that, I never worry. I always enjoy going to work. I look forward to getting up and going to my job. I'm excited about it. And there was a day when I was driving to the company where I said, I don't want to be here. This is not what I want to do. That's the day I told them I didn't want to do it any longer. Mm-hmm. It wasn't, I don't want to live that life anymore. I'm not in a position where I have to live that life anymore. And I know everybody's in a different place. And you can't just make decisions. I was blessed to be in a position where it wasn't going to affect me financially one way or another. And while I had cut my private practice back, I instantly, I just automatically knew that filled right back up immediately. And so I never missed a beat, and it was okay. But part of that journey, I can't get stuck on the only one vision of that. People will say, are you going to be in Richmond for the next 5 years? Maybe, maybe not. I'm not planning on leaving, but there may be an event happen in my life that I pack up and move tomorrow.
Quite possible. You never really know.
That's how, I don't know that we don't take this radio show national and I move some other place to do that. I don't know. It could happen.
And anything could happen like that. Sure.
That's what I keep up with. Yeah.
And I agree with you. In fact, it's one of those things where anytime that we're dealing with any situation, well, first of all, it's nice to know that we can change our mind anytime we want to. And we frequently do, but we don't recognize that we have the power to do that in a way that we feel will actually serve us the best, such as you take on a CEO job. That felt like a good thing to do. You start doing the job, and you find it's not quite what you thought it was, and actually, as time goes on, it pretty quickly turns into a grind, and no, this really isn't what I had in mind. I was much more preferring when I was doing the private practice, and so you can switch back. That's the positive use, in my opinion, of preference, of choosing what it is that you like and finding, no, I tried this, it didn't really work out. I want to go back to what I was doing or something that gave me equal amount of satisfaction. But the other way to change your mind is the kind that actually does not serve yourself, rather. It does not help you. And that's the kind where you make a change not because you find that the preference is different, but you make the change simply out of doubt, simply because of frustration or, I'm not sure what to do, or I give up, or I feel defeated, or whatever. And it's a subtle distinction, but it's an important one. It's the distinction between being the person who is deciding what you want in your life and being the person who is the victim of what happens in your life. At least that's the way I look at it,
Yeah. Well, and that mindset of change, the law of attraction doesn't allow for the feeling of victimhood. It doesn't match the law of attraction in the way you want to use it. It certainly matches in the sense that the feeling of I'm a victim, everything screws up for me, life's falling apart. It picks up on that and says, okay, that's clearly what this guy's after because that's what he's feeling. Let's give him more of that.
Let's give him more victimhood. Hooray!
Yeah. It's not sitting there judging is it good or bad. It's just feeding back to what you have. And that's what happens when you live in a mindset of lack or you live in a mindset of comparison. I'm looking at someone who's, when I look at someone on Facebook who's a friend of mine that's being successful, and I don't know if their image they're portraying on Facebook is real or not, doesn't matter. I'm very happy for them. Mm-hmm. I'm very excited when someone gets a new home. I'm very excited when someone gets a new job. I will always send somebody a note, congratulations on your new job, your new home. I believe in being excited for people. I'm not in competition with another human being, so I don't want to measure my life against anyone else's because all that will do is I will look for what my perception of my life is lacking. Well, I'm not lacking anything in my life. I know, and not everybody would want my life either. I mean, have a crazy work schedule. I work 7 days a week, and I have flexibility in that. But I choose to, because a lot of my clients I see on weekends. So a lot of people are, and I'm available to people. So, well, you really are never not on call. And I go, yes, that's what I choose to be. And so again, my life is my version of it right now. If I'm measuring that by what it's quote unquote should have been when I was growing up, I'm a total failure in today's world. Or if I measure it by where I'm at right now, thank God I'm not stuck in the trap of that life I was trying to have.
Yeah. That's the way I would look at something like that, because clearly that didn't match up with who you were, what you were lined up to do early on. I know also that as I move through life, the one thing that I have been focusing on in the biggest way is to feel joy, and in part of the desire that I have to feel joy, not just occasionally, but like throughout the day. That's my goal. That's where I'm really trying to get to, where I'm just feeling joy. I'm just enjoying everything. Part of that is also learning how to release the various forms of resistance that I have, and part of the step involved in releasing the resistance is identifying, well, what the heck is it, and where the heck is it, and how do I know I've even got it? Because a lot of the time, I didn't even know I even had resistance. And I remember when I first was exposed to the concept of resistance within law of attraction circles, and they said, well, it's your resistance that's holding things back. It's your resistance for the reason why stuff isn't showing up that you were hoping would show up. And I'm saying, what resistance? I don't know how I'm resisting. Where am I resisting? Will somebody please point to the resistance button on my chest so I can turn the darn thing off? Because I really don't want to resist anything here. Where am I doing the resisting? So a lot of it for me has been just asking, okay, so where's the resistance? And a little piece of resistance comes up, and I say, oh, there's some resistance. Great, get rid of it. Okay, we're going to replace it with this joy over here. Good, that one's gone. And then, oh, wait a minute, there's another piece of resistance. Oh, got to let that one go. It's just this endless thing of getting rid of the resistance. Well, I'm really hopeful that it's kind of like the old story about the boy who was mucking out the barn, and the reason he kept mucking out the barn is that he figured, well, with all that dung that was in there had to be a horse in there somewhere. And so he would just continue doing stuff until he found the horse. Well, that's pretty much what I'm trying to do. I'm just removing the resistance until I find the joy. And it's so easy in that process to forget to enjoy while I'm doing it. Because the joy is coming, right? I'm waiting for the joy to come. All I have to do is get rid of the resistance, and the joy will come. Well, actually, some of the joy is already here. How about enjoying that? How about taking some time out and saying, oh, yeah, I really like doing this podcast. I'm enjoying doing this podcast. This is fun. Yeah. Wait a minute, that's joy. Oh, my goodness, that's joy. How about actually noticing the joy that's there?
Yeah. Yeah, your resistance was the thought of the resistance.
Yeah, right.
It wasn't. It's one of my things that comes to mind for me is early in my addiction recovery. Life was really, my perception, it was very difficult. I had no money, and I was just going through a horrible time dealing with the consequences of my behavior from addiction, and it was a really rough period of time. And I remember one Saturday afternoon, and this is when I first had that epiphany you just started discussing. This is a long time ago, but it was a Saturday afternoon. I had nothing to do. I had no money to do anything with. There was a football game on, so it was probably September or October in Florida, which you can't tell by the weather. It's always 90 degrees.
Right.
So my neighbor, who was a friend of mine, said, "Hey, you want to bring the TV outside today and watch, and sit under the tree and watch and have a cookout?" Well, I have nothing else going on. So we got out there, and we, he bought some cheap hamburger meat. And I had no money, and we got some buns and just started cooking some burgers. Well, the guy across the street was just an acquaintance, also a fan of the Florida Gators, came over and started watching the game with us. Well, his kids came over, and they had a wiffle ball bat and a ball. And so we started screwing around with a couple other kids, and then a couple other dads came over. We had this big wiffle ball game, and people started bringing hot dogs and more hamburgers. And next thing you know, we have about 15 people having an incredibly fun wiffle ball game where, I mean, it was hilarious. We had a great time. And it was in that moment, I actually discovered in that moment, I'm having fun. This is fun. I was just a normal person. I wasn't somebody in recovery. I was just a normal person laughing. And in fact, I've seen several of those kids. I know all those kids that were playing, they're all grown now, obviously. And they often will tell me that they remember that day as one of the most fun days of their lives.
Wow.
Because it was something that we all had a blast at. It cost no money per se. But my perception at the time, things were really bad. So when I re-look at that was a very fun time. Now, while I realized it was fun, one of the, I guess, regrets, or one of the things I wish I could have seen differently, but I wasn't obviously ready for that, is I had a bunch of those times back then. I actually view that time now as not near the struggle as it felt like I was going through. It was an incredible time of my life.
So really, that's the challenge, then.
Really important.
The challenge is to, and actually, it probably doesn't even serve it well to call it a challenge. The opportunity, how about that? The opportunity is every moment of every day, there is some kind of joy, some fun, some happiness in it. Can we find it? Can we spot it? Can we look past all that junk that we're dealing with and find the joy?
Right.
Because if we can do that, then all of a sudden life becomes joyful.
Yes, completely. And then when you wake, as you see within each day, there are opportunities for joy. There's opportunities for annoyance. There's opportunities for whatever. And the only person in charge of that is you. Nobody can make it any different for you.
So as I go through my day,
factor.
It is an important factor. So as I'm going through my day, maybe I need to even shift my mindset again. In fact, that's actually pretty much an ongoing thing. I'm constantly shifting my mindset, and it's probably a good thing. It's better than getting stuck, But maybe I need to shift my mindset again instead of being, worked up about, well, I've got to meet the challenge of finding that joy. Maybe it's just the opportunities are there. Just notice them. Relax it a bit.
Right.
Not get so worked up about, I got to find it. It's in here somewhere. I know. I'm just going to keep digging until I find it. No, it's just right there. Just relax. Relax, open up, and there's the joy. It's right there. I can do this. This is not something that takes a lot of work. It doesn't require a board decision. This is easy.
Yes. I mean, that's exactly that mindset that when you look for things too hard, you can't see them sometimes. And when you're looking for the joy, I'm looking for the joy versus allow the joy within the moment. I know this sounds like the same thing, but the fact you're filtering for the joy is a good thing. But again, you can get stuck on trying to create the joy or what's going to come with everything. The feeling right now, your subconscious emotion is what the law of attraction tunes into. So when you find yourself creating joy right now, it filters to your subconscious. That's the emotion put out there. That's what's going to be matched. So learning that joy right now. I know people in prison that have mastered this concept of being joyful. If you can be joyful in prison, you can be joyful anywhere.
That's true.
And learning to not be so stuck on, I will be joyful when this event happens. When I have $1 million, when I get the perfect spouse in my life, when I get the perfect job, joy will come my way. And that has nothing to do with it. Joy is right now. Matching feelings right now with what. So you look at every situation, be joyful in today, and feel it, vibrate on it, put it out there, let that energy go out there, and then you're going to attract it to you. That's the beauty of it. That's how it works.
I've been experiencing something the last few days that most people, I think, would probably categorize it as an unhappy and not feel good health experience, which is I'm pretty sure I pulled a tendon in my knee and it sort of swelled up and it became stiff and the warmer it became, the harder it became to move it and so forth. It was not comfortable to walk. I mean, I couldn't get down to a squat position and push myself back up with my feet. I could get up, but I have to grab something and pull it up with my arms in order to get up. And just sometimes walking on really hard surfaces, like, well, yesterday we went to a supermarket after going out to dinner, and I mean, I could barely stand there because it was quite uncomfortable. But there are other times in the midst of dealing with this has been a few days that I've been dealing with this, there have been other times where I don't notice it at all. And I'm realizing that, and I have been realizing during this time too, that the times that I'm noticing the pain are the times when I am, for lack of a better way of saying it, I'm trying to make something happen. The times when I have not been noticing anything, when I've been just feeling good, are like right now, where I'm not trying to do anything. Now, granted, I'm sitting right now, but literally, I feel fine. I mean, there is nothing going on in my knees right now at all. There is no pain. There's no discomfort. There's nothing. They just feel normal. So what's the difference? Well, the difference is just the way I'm looking at the darn thing.
Right. I one of the populations that I deal with and have had success with is people who have fibromyalgia, and it is best described as a inflammation of the nerves. There are several doctors that truly believe it's just totally in a person's head. It's not a real thing on some level. Well, my point is, if it's in your head, it's real pain. It doesn't matter where it comes. It's real, no matter where it's being created.
Right.
And one of the things that is reported is when people start having a deep satisfaction in life, where they start really getting excited about life and not focusing on their pain, is when the fibromyalgia is at its least bothersome, is when they don't notice it. Mm-hmm. And when people can teach themselves to do exactly what you're doing, of not making it, I'm not going to think about the fibromyalgia, because that clearly is thinking about the fibromyalgia, but looking at the joy of things, looking at it without forcing it, looking at another direction, then they learn that for whatever cause, whatever the underlying cause is, the pain is relieved by this other mindset. And it is an effective way to do it. And we sort of came to this when I had a lady that was giving me her history, and she had mentioned that her brother was murdered many years ago. And then later she was describing that, almost roughly the same time frame, she developed fibromyalgia. When I investigated it further, it really was 2 days later from her brother passing away that she developed fibromyalgia. And I'm like, does that seem to point to something here? I'm just throwing that out there. And she's like, well, yeah, but, I never really, I guess when you look at it that way, and she eventually, with focusing on today, focusing on the joy in her life, she has really become effective at using the law of attraction on her benefit. And to her benefit, she doesn't have symptoms of fibromyalgia anymore. Mm-hmm. And she's lost a lot of weight. She's feeling better. She's not depressed. So the package of fibromyalgia was, at least in her case, again, this is not this doesn't apply to everyone who has this condition, but in her case, it certainly was changed by doing exactly what you're saying, by not making it the point of things. It's when you try to not have pain, you're still thinking about pain.
That's exactly true. And in fact, I had another similar thing myself. For a number of years, I suffered from something called irritable bowel syndrome, which is, again, like you say, doctors will basically tell you, we don't know what it actually means, but we think it's all in your head. And the truth is, I mean, I'll just mention this. I won't get into this part of it in detail, but it really is in my head. In fact, I even argue that all diseases are in our head, but I won't go there for now. Instead, what I want to do is point out that once I tried all kinds of stuff. I mean, I tried different kinds of regimens, the elimination diets and vitamins and, all kinds of stuff that was recommended to me. The only thing that ever actually made a difference, Joel, was drinking water, believe it or not. Drinking water actually just relaxed everything, kept stuff flowing and so forth. So that was my go-to. But the thing that made the biggest difference was, like you said, I just stopped thinking about it. Right. It just didn't even occur to me anymore that there was a thing there. And once there was no longer a thing there, then, not surprisingly, there was no longer a thing there. Similarly, with the knee. I was just talking a few minutes ago about the knee, right? And how it had been giving me trouble. You know, a minute after I told you about that, my knee started to get all real hot. I mean, literally, within 1 minute, it reacted that quickly. And then we stopped talking about it, and we started talking about feeling good, and it cooled down a bit. I mean, it's just like, holy cow. My knee responded within a minute to what I was thinking about. I mean, think about that if you get my double meaning there. It was responding to what I thought about, and it responded with pain. And then when I turned my attention to something else, the pain turned off. Like, what the heck? Holy cow, this is a big deal. This is a really big deal.
Yes.
So I want to get back to joy. I want this pain to go away. So I'm done with pain. I want to go. Let's go back to joy. Okay, I like the topic of joy a whole lot better.
Yeah. Well, and exactly. It's just where the hard thing to accept, at least in my mind, is we're almost always told a lot of this stuff isn't our fault. There's so much energy. We've talked about this before. The reality is, we are in control of our emotions and our feelings and our happiness. No one else is. It's that boils down to everything that we're talking about. So when I tend to look at life by any measurement other than my life, or if I want to measure it against, like our original topic, measuring my life today against the original concept of what I should be doing or what should have happened, it doesn't seem to work. It doesn't match. So which one is it? Am I more joyful that I didn't have that life that was sort of planned out? Thank goodness I didn't. It would not be the life that I want. I didn't know that this was available. I didn't know the stuff that I've discovered is available. As I told you the other day, I'm doing this doctoral studies on sort of metaphysics right now, and law of attraction being a piece of that. And it is information stuff that I am fascinated by. I love it. I just cannot get enough of it. And now this information has been around for a long, long time. I'm just now getting to some of this, and it matches. My chain of events led me to right here, right now. Without this chain of events, I wouldn't have the life I've had. So thank goodness I didn't have the life that should have been, or I could focus on the other side of it. It all is in your charge, and that's about the law of the first law of human responsibility of you are in charge of you, period. And the law of attraction is that. These are your emotions. Your life is a reflection of what you think about. It's a reflection of what you're bringing and inviting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nobody else did this to you. Nobody else did this to you. This is your life. And that message goes against a lot of the narratives today about trauma and victimization and all that. And no disrespect to what people have been through. But here we are today.
Right. And
what do we do with it?
You even used a word before, and I knew exactly what you meant. You didn't mean it in any kind of down-thoughted way, but you referred to the word fault. And I know what you meant. It had nothing to do with blame, but I know the first thing that goes into people's minds is blame. We're not talking about blaming yourself here, right? We're talking about a position of being responsible, literally able to respond. That's what responsible is. And when you are able to respond and you take advantage of your ability to respond, you are actively changing your mindset. That's not about blame at all. It has nothing to do with who's at fault. It has to do with, are you able to respond? And as long as we're conscious, guess what? We're able to respond. That's great news. That's a fantastic thing.
Yes. And that's the beauty of our life. That's the beauty of the law of attraction. And it's not a bad thing. And again, but one of the things that I talk about is my redefining of words. And for a long time, the us being responsible is meaning what has happened to this point is not relevant. It's we are in charge of reacting to what has happened to us at this point. We are.
Yes.
And you know, that's not a dialogue that's discussed often in today's world. It's you know, this isn't your, you know, you are not to blame because of what has happened to you, is a narrative that you hear every day.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like, you know, my son Chris one time was outside where we were out with friends at dinner, and they were throwing rocks at each other, as boys do. Well, he hit the kid in the forehead, and he bleeding, and I'm like, son, you know, you shouldn't throw rocks at people's forehead. That's sort of let's start with 101 with that.
Mm-hmm.
And all he kept saying was, but I didn't mean to. And that's all he could say.
Mm-hmm.
I go, but you did. But I didn't mean to. I go, your friend is bleeding is the point, and I'm not angry. His dad's not angry. I'm just saying, please don't throw a rock at his head anymore, please. You know, just let's not do that. And all he could get out because of a lot of his conditioning was, but I didn't mean to. It's not my fault because I didn't mean to.
Right.
Well, at the end of the day, it still happened. We get stuck on the internal battle of stuff that doesn't matter. There's a war rage. You see it at the level of politics, and you know, everybody's battling of who's at fault and all the minutia of who said what, who said. And all those arguments, we're not ever getting anything done if we don't cut those arguments out. So life can be about spending all of your energy about framing and placing blame and worrying about, or just accepting, here we are, let's go on. And that's sort of the difference of when people ask me, you know, what do you do for a living? I'm a life coach. Well, what's that difference between a counselor and a life coach, or a traditional therapist and a life coach? And my best explanation is, as a life coach, I work from today forward. I work on solutions for today. If you need to go back in time and rehash stuff, I'll get you a therapist to do that, if that's going to be beneficial to you. But I'm about, here we are today, let's move forward. And when most people think about it, that is the most effective way to deal with stuff.
Oh, absolutely. I agree. And in fact, I'm reminded of, it's sort of it's not a cliche, it's a fairly famous metaphor, if you will. It's the image of what happens when you point at somebody, as in, you know, blaming them, pointing at them, saying, "Oh, it's your fault." Well, if you look at what your hand is doing, you have an index finger that's pointing at them, but you have three other fingers that are pointing back at you. So every time that you're blaming them, you're also blaming yourself 3 times over, and neither one is a good idea. But it's especially bad when you're using the pointing, the blaming of somebody else to blame yourself, because that's really what you're doing. You're blaming them and you're blaming yourself. You're setting yourself up in a double whammy. It's crazy.
Right. There's a short film that I saw in one of my studies, a few weeks ago, and it was done by some psychology students at Harvard. It was really, really good, and they were on this elevator, and something had happened. Elevator stopped, and some guy, you know, he took the cover off and was trying to mess with the controls, and it you know, circuit blew, and then they were stuck even worse, and they started arguing about, everybody kept arguing. There's 5 people in the elevator about who was at fault. If you wouldn't have done this, we wouldn't be stuck. And then the 6th person, who was sort of off to the side, just picks up the phone and calls the building superintendent, right. And they were stuck in the elevator. The guy said, "I'll let you down." Yeah. And so the whole time, all these people were over there arguing about it, and this guy just had a solution. Within about 3 minutes, the elevator started going down. Then they started arguing about who fixed it, and the guy off to the side never, you know, he's just never saying a word. So it's when today is your life. It's a very exciting day. There's great stuff happening if you want it to be. Your life today is what you make of it. You're in charge of that. That's where the joy exists. And right now, joy isn't retroactive, and it isn't tomorrow. Joy exists in the moment of now. So living within that and feeling that vibrates stuff vibrates an emotion that'll attract more joy. You're in charge of that. So no matter what's happened at this point in your life, that baggage only has as much value as you give it. And you don't have to give it any value. I hope you don't. Moving on is the answer. And living today, being excited that there's limitless stuff to attract in your life, and that the journey of that attraction is where the joy exists, and just live in it to that fullest extent that you can. And when you find yourself pulling away from that mindset, quickly as possible get back there. It isn't, you didn't mess that up. Nobody does it perfectly. Just keep working to keep getting better at it.
Oh, yeah. And I love the story you told about the elevator because, I mean, that's so classic. Everybody has been in that kind of situation, not necessarily in an elevator, but everybody's been in a situation at multiple times in our lives where we're involved with, the finger pointing. And everybody is arguing about who's at fault and who did this and who did that. And it's laughable. It's just a silly, crazy thing. Probably the best defense against it is to laugh against it, to recognize when it happens and just go, oh, no, I did it again.
Yeah. Well, we talked about this before too. But one of my most fascinating epiphanies was when a friend of mine who is Russian gave me a Russian world history book that had been translated to English.
Right. Yeah, he told us about
that. Yeah, and their history is totally different than ours, reporting the same event.
Right. Yeah.
And again, it's about a perspective of how you view things. So if you're buying someone else's perspective, if you're measuring your life against success of others, or it creates that feeling of inferiority or lacking. If you realize today I'm in charge of my joy, period. I can make that happen. I can be joyful. I can love the moments. I can appreciate what's happening. I don't have to get stuck in downward spirals. All those things are in your control. That brings more joy to the table as we go forward.
It sure does.
It's exciting.
It is exciting, and it feels good.
Yeah.
In fact, every time that we notice one of those pieces of joy, every time I notice it anyway, I'm sure it's true for everybody else, and every time I notice that there was something that was going to slide right past me, it was just one of those good things. Oh, great. Okay, I can check that off on the list. And that was it. That was all I was giving attention to it until I finally said, wait a minute, wait. That was a good thing. That was a joyful thing. I can feel good about that. When I take the time to actually celebrate that, the joy increases. It's not enough to have the joyful thing happen. You actually have to feel it. You have to be willing to say, oh, yeah, that's what I was asking for. That's the good stuff. That's the good stuff I've been looking for. Because if you're willing to do that, then it becomes easier to spot it. And when it's easier to spot it, then you do it more often. And when you do it all more often, miracle of miracles, you feel good.
And that really sums everything up. That's the exciting piece of all this. Is you get that, you get better at it. It becomes, we were conditioned. A lot of us have been conditioned to do it the other way for a long time.
Oh yeah.
And we get frustrated with, most people aren't patient enough with the law of attraction to really allow. The law of attraction doesn't require time. It's our understanding of how to bring things about that requires time. And so we can only accept it at the pace we can accept it. And once you can believe with all your heart, but if you're not really accepting, just like you're saying, the outcomes or what's coming your way, or if you're disappointed because it's not how you envisioned it, then all you're inviting is more disappointment. If you look at it like, wow, what perspective can I look at everything that happens today and find joy or at least purpose in it, and see it from that angle, it helps a lot.
Now here's a question for you, and it's been kind of in the back of my mind since we started today's show. When we started the show, we talked about how it's just amazing how fast January went by and how quickly time seems to fly when you're an adult. When you're a kid, it's like it goes on from drags forever, but when you're an adult, it just flies through. And we kind of we dipped a toe sort of into, what would happen if we were to shift things around? Well, here's the latest version of the question. What would happen if we spent, say, 50% of our day feeling joy about stuff that happened? Because that would be a pretty big shift for most of us. I know it would be for me. Most of my day, typically, I'm spending like 95% of it just, doing the stuff. And if I'm lucky, I noticed 5% of it was joyful. So what if I increase that to 50%? And I'm actually taking the time throughout the day, to celebrate that 50% and finding the stuff in that 50% to feel joyful about, and then feeling joyful. I wonder what happens to my perception of time. I wonder if maybe I don't end up having more enjoyable experience and time seems to slow down while I am enjoying the experience.
It very well could. I would think, that there's a lot of logic behind that, but I also have experienced with there are days where most of my day is surrounding feeling joyful and really feeling it. And not that I'm perceiving it as going too quickly. It's just it does still seem to be this week has been an incredible week. I mean, there's been a lot of great things happening this week, just amazing stuff. And all of a sudden it's Thursday, it's like, wow. And every day I'm thinking about some of the great things that happened when the day I was living in great joy is still, my perception is still there. And I would love to be able to change that perception on some level but not give the joy up. So I don't have an answer, but it does seem logical that if we could be more mindful in the joy, then it would seem that perception that you are getting more out of your day. I hope that's the case, but it's people that, especially people who are raising kids, you have a life and you're going 1,000 miles an hour a lot of times. Time is a constant, and 5 o'clock Taekwondo practice is 5 o'clock Taekwondo practice, period. And it's just that you get going, and so it is a catch-22. So that's an experiment maybe that you can keep working with, and tell us how your perception changes on that.
I'm going to keep doing that because, like you say, time is a constant, but as it turns out, it's also a variable.
Exactly.
Which is really wild.
That's the beauty of it. But like today, I started with I had an appointment canceled today, and my day went from that one change has given me a perception that I have so much more time today to accomplish so much more. Now, did that 1 hour appointment make that much difference, or was my perception making that much difference?
Well, that's just it.
And that's the $1 million answer.
I think if your perception makes that much difference, then yes, it made a difference, not because of the time period, but because of your perception. Because really,
yes, exactly.
Everything that happens in our lives, the only meaning in our lives is what we perceive is there. If it's not like event comes along and there's a little tag that says, okay, here's the meaning, that's the meaning right there. Okay, now you've had it. No, that's not the way it works. It's not like the stuff comes to us and, okay, the meaning for this is this, and the meaning that you'll find out of this is this. That's not the way it works. It's what do we put into it? What do we find to be meaningful in stuff that comes through our life? So how much time do we spend on the meaning? I think that becomes the basis for whether or not time seems fast, slow, or in between. And I think it's really up to us which way it is. I suspect if we want the time to be fast, it's fast. If we want the time to be slow, it's slow. If we want the time to be medium, it's medium. I think it's just up to us.
Right. And that all of that stuff that you're talking about when one of the professors that said last week, there's a great way to really end the show on a cliffhanger. He basically said, how much of this is real and how much are we perceiving it? He said, how much of this of our life is like the movie The Matrix? How much is? He said, I don't know. And he said, you don't either. And so when you start thinking of it that way, it's that concepts that our perceptions are the most powerful things in the universe. It really is the most powerful thing in the universe, because our perception gives us our version of reality. The difference between having the greatest reality in the world and the worst reality in the world is simply someone's perception, period. And that's huge. I mean, it does help. So I think we have, we certainly, my perception is we need more time.
Yeah,
shows.
That's true. We do. We keep running on. It's crazy. But I will add one little thing as a cherry on top. It just kind of tops off what you were saying. I don't remember what his name is, but there is an astrophysicist, I believe, either an astrophysicist or a quantum physicist. I'm not sure which he is. But his observation was that there is nothing that exists until someone observes it. Well, if that's the case, then perception is everything.
Oh, well, there's entire quantum theory based on studies that say that the existence of stuff only happens because it's being observed or thought about. It's an amazing. They have a lot of interesting woo-woo studies that back that up.
So then that pretty much settles it, folks. It's all up to your perception. What's your perception going to be? Because you control all of it. That's pretty cool.
Absolutely.
That's a good way to end it, too.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it's a good way to end it. If you have one last comment, get it in there. We got about 5 seconds.
Have a great week, buddy. It's always good to talk
That's
to you.
a good one. I like that one. And we hope that you all join us on the next episode of LOA Today as well. Goodbye, everybody.